Hello traders, Rich here and welcome to a new episode on how to analyze any chart from scratch without using any indicators, just by applying basic price action concepts and market structure 101. So let's get started, and as usual, cheers. Today we have episode number 24, which is a stock, Netflix. And for those who aren't familiar with the series, don't worry, I'll make sure to attach the entire playlist, which includes all the videos by order in the description below. I also include this time my Telegram channel for those who want to get notified when I post a new video on YouTube or on TradingView. I'll also, as mentioned, attach it in the description below. Anyway, you can search for theSignalyst, just like the name of the YouTube channel. So let's do it. For those who already know, we always start from the higher time frames, weekly and daily, to know where we stand in the market. Are we overall bullish, bearish, or stuck inside the range, right? I know it's already boring, but I have to do it every time for those who are watching this series for the first time. So obviously, as price approaches the upper bound or the resistance, it can be horizontal, just like this one, or non-horizontal, just like these two. We'll be looking for sell setups. And as price approaches the lower bound, it can also be horizontal or non-horizontal. We'll be looking for buy setups. So let's do a practical example as usual, as we know in the series on Netflix. So we've got three types of rejections from daily and weekly. The first one is a horizontal support and resistance, where we see many failed attempts to break above or below a certain level or area. The second one is a supply and demand zone. A supply is when we have an aggressive movement upward from it. So as price approaches it, again, we'll be looking for buy setups. Vice versa, in case of a supply zone, the previous one was a demand zone. For in case of a supply zone, we have an aggressive movement downward, and as price approaches it, again, we'll be looking for sell setups. The third type of rejection is non-horizontal support and resistance, which are also known as trend lines. For example, I can see a very obvious one here, so let's do it anyway, right? So we've got this one. So that trend line is usually, which is why I like it more than a moving average when it comes to identifying the overall trend, is because it engulfs the overall movement. While a moving average, no matter which speed you choose, right? No matter if it's a short term or long term, you always see like the moving average crossing, like the price upward and downward. While the trend lines are long term, and sorry, yes, great, I deleted them. While the trend line is to engulf the overall movement upward or downward to identify the overall trend, and which we call the lower bound. So from weekly, just from weekly, we know that we are currently overall bullish, and we've got our first impulse here, right? Second impulse here. And so we know that if price approaches the trend line again, we might see a third rejection, and we can draw our trend line from weekly and daily just by connecting to swings. Okay, so we always try to make an offset for it to see if we can identify the upper bound, right, which is a parallel one, which is in this case a channel. And as you can see, the price isn't respecting the channel. Previously we drew this one. Let me do it again from here. So 1, 2. So we made our offset. So as price approached this area here, we were looking for setups on lower time frames, but then the price broke upwards. So now we need to update our trend line to cover or to engulf the overall movement in a way that it's not broken. So in this case, we can now see that this one is trading inside what we call a rising broadening wedge, right? So it's not a parallel channel, it's not a wedge, right? Like this. Okay, so, and it's not an ascending triangle, not a symmetrical triangle. It's like this, and this one is going like this. Okay, so this is what we call a rising broadening wedge. Okay, so the upper bound is obviously when the price is considered overbought, right? And we'll be looking for a reversal. But the best kind of setups would be if price approaches the lower bound, as it would be a trend following setup, right? So impulse, correction, then we've got these highs here, which were the previous all-time high. Price broke it upward, a classic retest, and traded higher again. Right, so now we are seeing the same movement. We see an impulse, a correction, a flat correction this time. So now the price is retesting the correction, so we are expecting a movement upward. Anyway, we'll gather more information and more confluences from lower time frames. But just from weekly, what we know is we've got these ones here. If we zoom in a little bit, right, we can see an aggressive movement upward from here. Okay, just like here previously, we've got what? Got a demand zone, right? Yes. Just like here previously, but a demand zone. In this case, this one is a rally, right? A small base and then a rally again, right? And we've got also one here. Okay, so this is a demand, this is a demand, and so on, right? And we also have a demand zone here. Okay, so this was a demand previously, a rally base rally, and this is also a demand. And as mentioned previously, here we also got a demand zone. And just as you can see, as price approaches the demand zone, we'll be looking for buy setups. Okay, anyway, let's focus on the current price action as usual, just an example. So here we've got a demand zone, and anyway, lately, because like now, even if we draw this one, right, it doesn't really matter because the price is around here and we want to follow the current price action. What we can see is that we've got a demand zone around this area, but I will not draw it for now because maybe we would have a support and resistance, so I don't want like to make the chart to make mess on the chart. Okay, so let's do it. So we've got a demand zone here, and we've got a supply zone also here, an aggressive movement downward from it. As price approaches again, we can look for sell setups. Anyway, this is for trend lines and supply and demand zones. Now let's go over supply and resistance. And as usual, and as mentioned previously, if you don't have typical supply and resistance, we go for round numbers, and usually we wouldn't find typical ones when it comes to stocks and crypto, because like usually the price would be going up and up again, right? Unless of course we've got more data here. When we've got like these movements, then we can go for support and resistance, right? So usually we can find more typical supply and resistance when it comes to forex. When it comes to stocks, we go for trend lines, supply and demand zones, and supply and resistance integrated with round numbers. So what we do is we try to find rejections on the chart, right? This is first, and we try to see if it's a round number or not. For example, we can see many rejections here. If we draw a level, it would be around what? Around 400, which is a very strong round number. And of course, it's an entire zone around the 400. For example, here the price where we were here, like we didn't have typical supply and resistance, right? So as price approached this one, we expected a reversal, because the 400 is a very strong round number, exactly just like the 300. But of course, they are not laser lines. Price can still trade like break them upward, or like break them upward a little bit before reversing. So for now, this is what we see as 400 is a strong round number, and price respected it previously. Then price broke upward, retested the 400, and then traded higher. So it is a possible support area. And as price approaches the 400, it would be what? It would be the intersection of the lower orange trend line. Let me fix it to touch the last swing. Here we go. So around this area, it would be a very strong area to look for buy stops, because it's the intersection of the lower non-horizontal support in orange and the horizontal support and round number in blue, which is the 400. Next, we've got also rejections here, which is around what? Around number 250, right? And if we continue, we can see that we also got the 500 here. Here we go, which is an even stronger round number than the 400, because like from 0 to 1K, the strongest round numbers are 250, 500, 750, and so on, and 1K, obviously, right? So the 250 is stronger than the 200, and like the 300 is stronger than the 290. Okay, so we've got the idea. The more zeros we've got, the stronger the round number would be. So the 500, I'll keep it for now, and I also add the 750, which would be around here. So as price approaches this area, it would be a very strong round number, acting as a resistance and the intersection of with the upper orange trend line. Okay, so that's what we know just from weekly time frame again and again. And this is why I told you that I will not draw as supply and demand zones, because we've got a demand zone here, but I didn't draw it because I want to see if we have a support and resistance and round number first. And yes, we do have a 500, which is also acting as a support area many times. Of course, it's an entire zone, so we should treat it like this in this particular case, right? So, but I wouldn't draw the demand zone because we already got the 500. So anyway, as price approaches this area, we'll be looking for buy setups. Okay, so that's what we know for now on Netflix. We are overall bullish, right? And currently in a correction phase, and we are looking for buy setups because price is approaching a demand zone and the 500, which is a strong round number and a support area. Unless this zone is broken downward, right? Then a movement till the next support would be expected, which is the 400 and the intersection of the lower orange trend line and on horizontal support. The strongest areas are here and here as well. Looking for buy, unless broken downward, then this would be the next support. I'll delete them now, and now we'll zoom into daily time frame to see if we can gather more info. But usually, when you can when you can see many confluences or like the analysis is clear from weekly time frame, chances are that you wouldn't be able to add anything from daily time frame, but we zoom in anyway to see if we can add anything new. So if you zoom into daily time frame, here we go. We can see that the overall movement is going upward, right? And as we did from weekly time frame, we'll try to engulf this overall movement. So if we draw a trend line here, right, we can see that these swings are going up and not horizontal, just like we saw from weekly time frame. So yes, it is an entire support, a horizontal one, but chances are that price can also reject the trend line before diving in to reach the support before going upward. So it's also a possible rejection. And since we have orange here and orange here, I'll make this one in green, and then I'll make the trend line in blue. This is how I like it. And what I'll do is I like to draw the outer ones from weekly in brown. So this is how you keep the chart as clean as possible. Here we go. So we've got now this non-horizontal support, right? You can draw it here or here, it doesn't really matter, right? Like this or like this, doesn't really matter as it's an entire zone also and not a laser line. And as usual, we try to make an offset for it, right? And it's broken here, so let's make it higher, just like we did for weekly time frame. Here we go. Right, so the price, if you zoom out, is now trading inside this giant brown channel, and lately, from a medium-term perspective, inside this area here. So now up, down, so now we are looking for the up, right, in simple like words or terms. So now approaching the support, 500 lower trend line and in blue, and we can see this, the demand zone even better from daily time frame, also approaching the demand zone. Knowing that Netflix can still dive inside the support before going upward, so as price is sitting around this area, we are only looking around this area, we're only looking for buy setups because we've got a support, demand, and so on. Unless it's broken down in an aggressive manner, then a movement till the lower support would be expected. But anyway, let's take it step by step, right? So now, we're overall bullish from a medium-term perspective, also looking for buy setups. We are currently in a correction phase, right? So we were overall bearish previously, then starting from here, price broke above the previous swing high, impulse correction, and so on. So now the uptrend began. We had an impulse, another impulse, and we can see that the impulse movements are getting smaller in size, which means that the buyers are still pushing, are still in control, able to make a higher high. However, they are getting weaker, right? Because they aren't able to make a big impulse movement driving the price a lot higher, just like previously. So it's an early alert that the buyers are exhausted, but for the bears to prove control, they need to break below the previous low, which is here in this case. So here was the previous low, then price made a new low. Here is our updated low, and then price broke the previous low here. So starting from this impulse movement, we are now overall bearish. And as you can see, impulse correction, and we are currently in this impulse phase. And we are still overall bearish, trading, as you can see, inside like a channel, and we can draw it like this. Well, let's do in red because I usually draw it in red for our trigger swings. Let me make it appear on H4. Fantastic. We can see it even better from H4, right? So low, last low, broken downward, impulse correction, and here we go. We are currently in a bearish trend. And as mentioned from daily time frame, we are waiting for the buyers to kick in because we are currently around a support area. So what we are waiting for is a new swing high. Let me draw it. Here we go, to form around the upper red trend line to consider it valid, because for now the trend line is a trigger trend line and only connecting two swings. So we're waiting for the price to form a third swing around it to consider it valid, and then we'll be buying on spec upward. Of course, this is just an idea. Price might form like a double bottom here and then with head and shoulders. Like, we will look for any bullish reversal setup as per your trading plan. As per my trading plan, and for this video, this is a basic pattern, a channel that we are waiting for, and then we expect, in this case, we would expect a movement upward till the next bound or next resistance area, which is, as you can see, the upper blue and brown trend lines, and also we've got the 750. So this is an entire area, an entire resistance area where we will be also looking for a reversal, just like here previously. So very, very clean market structure that you can't really see, you don't see like a lot. So very clean structure, higher highs, higher lows, broken downward, lower highs, lower lows, very, very clean. Just now we are waiting for a new high and then a break above it. Meanwhile, until this happens, and as we always say, trading is reactive, not predictive. Let the market make the first move, just like chess. Let the market make the first move and then react accordingly. So meanwhile, and until this happens, Netflix can still trade lower, dive inside the support before going upward, just like I did here, or even breaks it downward for it to become a resistance, and then test the lower support where we'll be looking for buy stops as mentioned from weekly time frame. Okay, so that's it for Netflix. I don't need to zoom into lower time frames because things are already clean or clear from H4. So we usually don't need to zoom into lower time frames. So that's it for Netflix. Best of luck, and I'll see you on the next episode.